He once started an online self-help column, and everything got worse. He is the most evil man in the world. You're listening to the True Shotgun himself, live on the Noir. Now online, the last will and testament of an underground superloser. If you are reading this, at least two things are true. Firstly, you are either part of the dwindling fan base I amassed while writing for underground zines over the course of a decade, or you are one of the chicks who works at Dutch Bros. Either way, the second point is also true. I am reduced to plying my trade to random baristas because in my old age I've become worthlessly dependent upon the acceptance of people who know nothing about me. Also, since you're reading this, it means I once again failed to commit suicide. I should really stop going the overdose route. That fentanyl I swiped from my lymphomatic neighbor just wears off too quick and takes too long to finish. Let this be a lesson to the drug industry. Irresponsible self-medication should never come in lollipop form. Anyways, hi, I'm Nihilist Youth, and today, I'm finally on the internet. I'm not proud of that fact, by the way. For well over a decade, I had done everything possible to keep myself as far away from the online world as humanly possible. Not only because I needed the anonymity, as evidenced by my nearly 20 pseudonyms, or because the internet keeps track of all our mutual lies to come crawling back at a later date while running for president, but because, quite honestly, I liked it that way. I liked the fact that not even my closest friends, relatives, girlfriends, or boyfriends knew a fucking thing about me. I enjoyed the peace of being able to maintain a day job while simultaneously being investigated by at least 4 different law enforcement agencies. I preferred to be a ghost that was owed many favors of such unfortunate nature they could only be paid by those in positions of minor political power. You know who you are. And I enjoyed wrapping myself in a cloak of infamy. Sure, many of the stories were absolutely false. As a general rule, anything involving automatic weaponry was. But as a general rule as well, anything involving transvestites and yogurt most certainly wasn't. And if we're all being honest with ourselves, I think that's a lot worse. That's the greatest thing about people worshiping your stage Jesus. Everyone thinks you're sexy when they think you're famous, especially if no one has an actual picture of you. But time goes on and things change. What was once a young man with the world in front of him and a whole list of options that didn't require passing a drug test is now a 31-year-old deadbeat with arthritis trying to replace chimney smoking with going to the gym and desperately looking for common ground with the softer sex so that when I die cold and alone, I can at least remember that time I dated a hot chick. Or a black dude who really knew how to stir my stools. By the way, for those of you whom this is the first thing of mine you will read, no, it does not get any better. But how did I get here? And more importantly, how did we get here? That's right, you and me. I'm dragging you into this too, because let's face it, if you are my age, you already suck and you probably know it. And if you are younger than me, well, you suck too, but you won't know it until no one wants to fuck you anymore. If you're a girl, that won't happen until you're 50. But by the time you're at that point, you've either ran 3 rich saps through the racketeering scandal that is our nation's divorce circuit, or crapped out a few kids that you can munchausen into buying you stuff. And if you are a guy, well, most girls are basically fighting over those 2 dudes anyways. They're both at least 5'11" and probably named Chad, so you're accustomed to not getting laid already. Lessons learned, sex is Hitler, and romance is a gas chamber. Moving on. At the time of this writing, Trump was getting elected. Wasn't that a kick in the head? You, reading this in the future, will probably recall some sort of rights standoff taking place on the streets of your local city or your Facebook feed. You will likely recall everyone having something to say about how everyone is wrong except for them. Black folks, Hispanic folks, gay folks, queer folks, white folks, women, men, etc. ad infinitum et al. Ad nauseum, they all had an opinion on the way this or that should have ran to be the way it's supposed to be. The way it's supposed to be. The greatest myth of our age. Now we can dive into that a little bit later, but for the time being I want to go a different route. Because even though this isn't my first go round with writing for people who don't yet hate my ever-loving guts, it's my first time writing for probably the vast majority of you. since this is my first official internet post, so it's important we get this filthy fag rag started off right. As a practicing Satanist, anarchist, malcontent, and hobbyist drug dealer, I operate with very few rules and hold a limited viewpoint on the way anything should be, if anything should be at all. Because more so than all the other filth I exhibit, I am above all a nihilist. And a nihilist's opinions, much like everyone else's, is completely irrelevant. The rules generally come in two distinct flavors, the first flavor being the kind that we make up as we go along because we hate the fact that, despite the laws and TV shows to the contrary, we're still nothing but monkeys who shit, fuck, and sometimes both at the same time. And the second flavor being a universal law that is insurmountable no matter how hard you don't want it to be. So, before we bring to an ending my first internet post ever, I want to introduce you to Fox Wilde's 3 incontrovertible truths. Number 1, everyone fucks up or across, never down. Number 2, behind every human action is the fear of inevitable death. And number 3, everyone is full of shit and no one knows what they are doing. This has been an episode of The Noir, hosted on www.doomtownradio.com. The musical background for this episode was Camille Sasson's Danse Macabre and an unknown performer. If you happen to know the performing orchestra and conductor, please let me know and I will give them credit. Until next time, I'm Fox Wilde, aka Niles Youth. Now go fuck yourself.